They will not top them up from the street to the grid unless talk about convoluted, which makes a lot of sense from their point of view.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think this is from the.
How can you resist these?
I don't know, but I'm looking at, I love those crawlers. What's going on here?
I just don't. Sweets. Thank you.
Good. I did just brush my teeth, so I would really like.
I'm gonna save mine.
I'm gonna save mine too. Do you want a crawler?
Oh,
This
just
is
a
from
piece.
the economic development meeting today.
Oh,
Jared was here, so he brings.
so it must be loose.
Yeah, he brings in leftovers. Or brings in things for the team.
Unfortunately, loose crawlers are to die for.
Oh, they are. We have we're doing a construction project.
Oh.
We get them every
Yeah, what are you
Tuesday.
doing? Like super, you've been at it for a
Energy
while.
efficiency,
Good.
delayed maintenance, so deferred maintenance, whatever you call it, and a kitchen.
And a kitchen.
And a those are the fun things.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's all fun. You know, it's all kind of, it's all good.
Good. Gonna report out on the trustees of trust funds tonight, or are you gonna report out on this?
Probably not. I don't think so.
Well, we could tee it up for March 20th, or that's our next meeting, right?
Yeah,
We have a lot for that meeting.
but the bottom line is, what are we gonna do for FY24?
We don't know.
That's the only.
Yeah.
I kind of would wait to.
Yep, wait and see.
Wait till the budget meeting to discuss that at one time, rather than trying to string it out. Let me tell you what I'm worried about. I'm worried about these people go to the AG's office, or wherever the hell they go to, and they say, no, you can't spend money if you're underwater.
Yeah.
Then we're stuck for back to 2022.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk to Paul, I'm gonna say, don't ask that question.
Done that. Yeah, why are they asking?
Ask that question later.
Yeah.
Because they're purists.
Yeah.
I think ask that question later. I'm also thinking, to protect against that, move the 100,000 for 24
Into 23.
into 23. So that's my
Yeah.
skeptical.
Well, I think that you can have that sidebar conversation.
Yeah, well, yeah, I will. But they're purists, you know, and that's okay. That's their job. Hi, Bill.
Lou?
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you? I'm here. I think I'm forgetting something.
Last I saw, Athos wasn't gonna make it.
I think I saw that too, yeah.
You are feeling any better, or you just?
It's hard to do the whole day because I had a trustee of trust funds at 7:30 this morning. So I've been going.
Just get real.
I just have
Sure.
to stand up. I can sit. These are actually pretty comfortable because I don't get a lot of pressure on my legs. But it's just tired. I'm just not used to it. And doctor's like, don't do anything. Which is
Just takes a while to heal.
it's just like you have to wait 6 weeks to run out. We're not doing any PT. We're not doing it, and I don't want you walking hills. I don't want you, picking up heavy stuff and twisting and turning and So, yeah, it is what it is. This weekend was hard though for me. I mean, winter is like
well,
my
snow.
favorite season.
Yeah.
And I should show you this. Our neighbors, they have 3 little kids, and was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. This is, it's a 5-gallon bucket.
Oh, that's
It's a
fun.
huge,
That is
it's a really big
fun.
snowman.
That's fun.
But now it's kind of
this thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the sun's
I-
been strong.
Yeah, yeah.
Just-
Well, did you see the moon tonight? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was.
It's full to the 7th. That's tomorrow night.
Yeah, no, that was, but yeah, the sun was.
It's really, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
what
it's
a
gonna go
difference.
today, but
What
it
a
didn't.
difference.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Hanover Selectboard meeting of March 6, 2023. Here tonight to have some fun and do good work for the town. As always, the first order of business is public comment. David, you have public comment tonight?
No.
Okay. The second order of business is a recommendation to set, I move that we set a public hearing on Monday, March 20th, 2023 to adopt and update 2023 Hanover Hazardous Mitigation Plan.
I'll second that.
So this
It's an
is,
amazing plan. The thing was like this thick.
yeah, so yeah, certainly every word cover to cover we need to make sure to review. This is being done by the fire chief and our emergency management directors and is done periodically as required. But there's been...
The powers to be accepted it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you'd like me to ask, Marty or someone to be here to talk more about it, I'm happy to, but otherwise I feel like it's pretty
I still think
self-explanatory.
that's needed. It's not needed.
It should be posted though.
It should be on the website.
I
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah, okay.
So did I hear a second amendment?
I did.
Oh,
I
thank
seconded
you.
that, Peter, for you.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? That public hearing has been set. I move that we set a public hearing on Monday, March 20th, 2023 to review requests for easement on Bent Road.
I'll second.
Public Works has been working with the Bent family on Bent Road to try and create a better turnaround for the Public Works plow vehicles. And my understanding is this would accomplish that.
Sounds like they came to
An agreement.
a conclusion.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
There's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, right.
All those in favor of setting that
Aye.
public hearing?
Aye.
Sustainable Hanover Community Power Update.
Judy, welcome.
Come on.
Thank you, here are all my props.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you guys still remember how to do this? So the first thing I'd like to do, after I plug this in, is hand out some PR that we have gotten through CPCNH. We now have 750 of these.
Awesome,
We're-
thank you.
Bill, you?
Gonna figure out what to do with them.
Use one, Brian.
No,
Okay.
The people here, if you'd like one.
Let me turn it down.
So this will be very quick, but so I thought it was important to let you know what's happening because it changes every day in terms of timelines and that sort of thing. And I just wanted you to be up to date. So originally, just in terms of communications and PR work, I want you to know that we are meeting weekly on Tuesdays, the HCP PR team, and that seems to be working out well. And I'm also meeting weekly with representatives from the 3 other towns in the Upper Valley, and Enfield, Plainfield, and Lebanon, to make sure that we are reinforcing one another's efforts. So the timeline is being delayed a little bit. Part of the issue is getting the information that I think people think by law Liberty is supposed to be providing, but they haven't yet done that. And so that led to some delays in the risk management meetings, and then ultimately the rates have to be approved by CPCNH. So we don't yet have the rates. I thought we'd have them by tonight. We don't. Hopefully we'll have them by the end of the week. If not, hopefully next week. But of course that means everything is being pushed back a little bit. So that means the mailing will be postponed. That means our public meeting is going to be postponed. We currently have it scheduled for March 23rd, but we're in the process of organizing one for the week later, just in case that doesn't fall within the 15 days of when they send out the mailing. By law, it has to. So, so stay tuned on that. Yeah, so just stay tuned on that. And so the launch or the enrollment is probably going to be delayed to the 3rd or 4th week in April, as opposed to early on it was going to be the first part of April. So just so you know that. One of the big issues under discussion between CPCNH and the utilities has to do with the net metered customers. Last time I was here, and Yolanda was here, Yolanda is returning from California tomorrow, couldn't be here tonight, but last month we told you that net metered customers, people with solar panels, would automatically be enrolled in Hanover Community Power. That is no longer the case. we hope it will be the case by the time we launch, but right now that is not the case. They will not be automatically enrolled. And that has to do with Liberty sharing necessary data with CPCNH. So just if people ask you.
So when you say not automatically enrolled, can they opt in, or are you saying they're not eligible?
I have to tell you that I'm really not comfortable answering
Okay.
any questions about net metering.
Okay,
Because I don't really know what's going on. That's a
that's
detail.
an answer.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. We can look into
I can
it.
give you a little sneak preview. I'm a net meterer, and I received a letter from Liberty about 2 weeks ago, informing me that I thought it implied I'd be opted in, but it may not. It just said you may have the option in the near future to go into this program or to stay with Liberty. And understand because of your agreement with us, you have peak time, mid time, low time rates, and it may not be to your advantage. So that implies to me they're assuming that we will be allowed in, and they're already kind of putting their
But that could have
argument out
changed this
about
week,
what.
is what we're
Could
hearing
change.
from you, right?
It's changing day by day.
Okay.
They put that letter out. I'll just tell you,
Yeah.
they put that letter out.
Okay,
One of the things that we did do, last time we went over our website with you, this is the Sustainable Hanover website. Remember, we went over the 4
Right.
questions?
Yep.
And down at the end, we also gave people a link to frequently asked questions that we had worked really hard on revising, etc. But then we realized that we can't keep up with the answers to those questions. And so we are now linking directly to the CPCNH site on frequently answered questions. So we had it just wrong in terms of net metering. So we've decided that we're not going to try to keep those up. So if you click on frequently asked questions, you go to their website, and those should be as up to date as anything. Maybe not data negotiations, but so then that last section is on net metering. You can read that. Again, it's in flux. So sorry about that.
I don't even know if I'm in that either.
Well, the other thing to know is that the CPCNH website is active. So if we go to their website, this is where folks will be signing up or opting in, opting up, opting out. This is where they will go. So they're going to choose their community power. There are 10 communities that are starting to enroll this spring. Hanover Community Power. So we have our own pages. You know, you can, that card that I gave you has this website. You can go to this website and look at it. Frequently asked questions that we're already using. And then down here, electricity choices. This is where folks are gonna go once we know the rates to sign up and select a utility, you know, Liberty, select municipality, Hanover, and then put in your account information. I put my account information in, and I actually got up to the point where they were giving me options with rates, but I don't think they're the real rates. So, you know, just to know that's where people will go for their business. And we will be, we're revising the Sustainable Hanover website constantly, and we will revise it to make sure that
For those,
we now can link to the pages here, that CPCNH.
for those who would be automatically enrolled, which plan will they be automatically enrolled in,
Good question, to be determined.
to be determined?
Yeah, I think Lebanon, for example, is going to enroll people at the least expensive rate. By the Hanover aggregation plan that we put together and voted on at town meeting and you approved, in that it said that the default had to be at a rate that was lower than
Liberty.
utility or than Liberty or Eversource. it might be that a couple of our options are lower. And if so, I think Sustainable Hanover, we haven't had this discussion,
Okay.
but there's several of us who would want to go a little bit higher than the lowest rate. They'd like to be able to beat Liberty a little bit in terms of the renewable energy
And then
content.
people can opt lower or opt higher.
And then people, if money is the most important thing, they can opt down to the least expensive. And then if others want to opt up to 50 and 100%, they can. But that is to be determined.
It's great to have these options. Thank you for, it's nice to be able
It
to.
is really great to have the options. It's pretty exciting. So the one last thing that I think it's important for you to be aware of, many people have been getting things like this in the mail. This is from a competitive supplier called ENH, and it's out of Houston, Texas. And the reason why I think it's important is that it's confusing people. These are competitive suppliers. We've had them since deregulation in 1997. This isn't anything new, but because of the timing, people are saying, is this community power? It's not.
I've had questions.
Yeah, it's not.
Nothing to do with our program. I've been telling them nothing to do with our program.
It has nothing to do with our program. So that just want you to be clear about that. And there are others flying around also, other competitive suppliers, but this is the one that most people seem to be getting.
Yeah, I got one.
So you got it too. I did too. So I think that's it.
Thank you,
for the
Judy.
update.
We really appreciate it.
I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Hopefully I'll have some real information. So you'll probably have real information before you see me again in terms of the rates. That's what everybody wants.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy, for
Thanks.
coming in and for all your work.
So the next order of business is, I move we adopt the proposed union contract for FY 23-24 for AFSCME Local 3657 Police Department employees.
I'll second.
Matt, come forward. Alex, you're up.
Yeah, we'll let our person.
So this is something we're excited to be able to present to you all for adoption. Matt will talk a little bit more in just a moment, but this is in part a response to some of the conversations that we've had about making sure that we're providing a competitive employment to our employees, and Hanover being the sort of employer of choice. This was my first opportunity working with our unions here, and I just want to take a moment before we give a couple more updates to thank all three of the bargaining units for just working with us in this process. And there was a lot, obviously it's hard for a lot of folks in a lot of different fields right now with inflation, and there's just been a bunch of different issues that they voiced, and we kind of created a process this year to talk through them, and just very happy with the management and all the members and the union reps. And just before Matt, makes a few comments, to also thank him as well, our labor attorney and our human resources staff, for just kind of helping move this forward, and obviously for all of you for supporting what is a package that I think enables us to take a really great big step towards making sure that we're offering the kind of wages that will attract and will kind of keep the best, which is what we want to do. So just wanted to add that in there. And Matt, I don't know if you want to mention any of the
Matt, introduce
kind of
yourself.
specifics. Yeah.
Sure, I'm Matt Upton. I'm the town's labor attorney. I've been practicing law now for 30-something years and working with the town, I think, for the last 10 or so years. I wanted to say, as we are looking at these agreements, I think they're very fair. I think they're very balanced. As you are aware, we're seeing labor shortages in almost every sector of public employment right now, some more than others. And neighboring communities are moving to be more aggressive in hiring and retaining employees, and the town really needs to follow suit. I think what we did here was very fair, very balanced approach to it, with a 5% COLA, steps, and some one-time money. I think we've positioned ourselves well going into the next year, that we should be able to retain the employees we have, and likely with some of the innovative things that we've added to the agreements, likely attract new employees and be able to backfill where we're having employees retire. We're seeing a lot more retirements happening across public sectors throughout the state. And again, in technical areas and areas where CDL is required, extreme shortages, as well as police, and now we're starting to see fire. I happen to represent the cities of Rochester and Manchester, two of the biggest cities in the state, and where they used to get 40 or 50 applicants for a fire position, they're now getting a half a dozen or a dozen, many of which don't even live within the geographical confines of the city or its past restrictions on residency. These contracts, by the way, are really in keeping with those contracts that have been approved in both Manchester and Rochester. Both communities are on tax caps, so they are very fiscally conservative. And these contracts are all consistent with the contracts that have been recently agreed to by both of those cities. Again, I just think they give us a year to complete the wage and salary study that we have started. And I'm just optimistic that we've really positioned ourselves well going into the next set of negotiations and the implementation of a town-wide wage and salary study.
Alex, have there been any changes since the budget book, the budget slides?
There have not been.
This is basically the same
I'm looking at
As
the
well.
slides,
proposal
yeah.
that we've
Yep.
discussed for
Mhm.
a month.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's a fair point to make too, which is that what Matt just identified that we're offering to the collective bargaining units that we've agreed to is also what's being offered to the staff at large, for the most part.
So you can just to clarify, so it's a 5% increase plus the steps, and a typical step is 2%. Someone who's at the max does not get that.
No, they do. They get a little bit more in one-time money.
Well, that's right. And the one-time money is
Money that's being funded through reserves or from ARPA funds or a combination of both. But as one-time fund doesn't go to the base, should not hit the tax rate.
right. But how much is it?
It's $1,000
It varies a little by,
contract.
yeah.
No, is it? Well,
But
just
it's about-
stick with police. Just stick with police.
The police, it's $1,250 for step eligible, $1,750 for non-step eligible. In public works, it's $1,000.
No, why don't you hold till you get to that one? Just, I'm suggesting just stick with each contract,
Oh.
because that, for the
Okay.
public
Oh, I see.
information, just to keep it clear.
Okay.
That's correct. It's $1,250 and $1,750 for police. Again, another area where we have immense competition. Just to give you a statistic that I find kind of alarming, like the city of Manchester, 80% of its patrol force have less than 5 years of experience. To give you an idea of just how transient the population is at this point. It's one of the skills in police that is readily transferable from one community to another, other than knowing the families and some of the community roads and like most of the laws are state laws that are enforced.
So is there anything else in the new contract that has an economic impact?
We've agreed to freeze contributions on health insurance.
Right.
Just because the increases in health insurance would negate a lot of the wage increase for the people at the top of the scale. The only other thing is we've agreed to match the funding for paid family medical leave that the state is recently offering. It's very modest. I think it's $4 a week are the premiums, and we've agreed to match it. So if an employee enrolls, they would pay $2 a week, we would pay the other $2 a week.
So that, well, the warrant article, is it just the total economic impact as part of the warrant article?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is it?
We'll have to look at that more specifically.
I don't know.
I forget, just, there's a number
Yes.
that
It's
says.
usually
each
a-
contract.
It's
For each
usually a
contract,
number
yeah.
for each contract.
That's correct,
Okay, so this will all add up to a number.
a number.
Right.
I don't know, and I don't know if Ellen's had a chance to complete those calculations yet.
We do have the calculations done. We'll have to add the benefit calculation. I'm not sure how that works, but we'll figure that
Okay.
out. We don't have it split up by contract right now, but we have the totals for all of it.
Yeah, and I think in each warrant article, there's an amount of the increase. The issue will be clarification of what's budget addition versus one-time money. That'll be when we get some confusion, but just, we'll have all those numbers straight. So.
Yeah, and I don't know how, we'll have to talk how that works for like the merit-based, the things that don't apply to each unit specifically, but are just offered overall.
We should probably, as you get closer
Yeah.
to final preparation of your warrant, you and I should meet to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, we should, yeah.
Okay.
It may be that we're gonna have to raise and appropriate the total cost, but some of this cost may be offset by one-time funds or ARPA funds that you already have.
Right. Good.
We'll just have to show those as a revenue coming.
I think I should add for the public that these increases have been included in the draft budget that we worked on hard this past week, and we'll be coming back for a final on the 20th. So all of these increases have been included in that draft budget.
And I think it's important to also note that all three of these contracts are firmly supported by the department heads.
Okay. So, it was moved and seconded, I believe.
Public comment.
Public.
Public comment. Hey, Corey, you have something?
Kari has something. David does too.
Stay there, Matt.
Nice to be sharing a table with this guy again. Now, takes me back to some school negotiations well over a decade ago, but if you've been doing this for 31 years, not too surprising, yeah. All right, so I guess I did have a couple of questions last year, and I think I saw somewhere in the presentation that we were also for police, I guess what is the status of the critical shortage agreement? Is that being continued? Does it sunset at the end of this contract? I guess what's going on with that?
Critical shortage for the police is still in the contract. It's an ongoing provision. But it's my understanding from talking with the police chief that we're almost reaching that level where it would go away. It's triggered when we go down 2 police officers, more than 2 police officers. And the thing about the critical shortage pay is it's self-funding because it's funded from the money it's saved from the absence of the other employees.
And that's,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's worth mentioning that that's something that we're expanding so that it's not applied to only police.
Right, so because since we're going one
Okay.
contract at a time, I thought I would ask about police because I think the way that it was written the last time for them, it sort of expired, but, and I guess I am, wondering it. And I have to say that a lot of, in the budget, a lot of the overtime lines are flatlined. So, I mean, I would have thought that because when you pay overtime, you're paying time and a half, that all of those lines would reflect. So either we're assuming that there are fewer hours of overtime, or else we haven't built in the wage increases into all of the overtime lines. So I don't know which it is, and we'll probably find out in subsequent versions, but that was, I guess, something else that I would highlight that we need to figure out. Do we need to flatline overtime?
Yeah, I think it's
lines?
both, depending on the department. I know there are some that did see a reduction, but also, I mean, what is counted, what the compensation increases go towards was full-time, part-time, and overtime wage lines. I will definitely make sure, I will add that to the list of lines to double check as we went through last week. There were definitely a few mistakes in there. So I'll double check those, but some went up a little, or sorry, some went down a little bit, and then it went up because of the increases.
Right, but most of them would just show it like the exact same amount to the dollar.
Right.
So I would have thought there's some changes, but I also thought that, yeah, if we are offering the critical shortage, that would mean that we were still using overtime, which eats into the offset, that even though you have, vacancy, you're paying a lot of people time and a half for a lot of hours.
You save some money on benefits because you're not paying the benefits twice. And now benefits have gotten very expensive, upwards of $25,000 for a family plan. That helps to help fund some of the critical shortage pay. But it's also, it's just hard on the police officers who are doing overtime shift after overtime shift, which was something we were seeing burnout and unfortunately, at some points, we find the police chief have to order in, what he calls it order in, which is forced overtime if necessary. And so this was something we did in the last contract to try to retain our employees as we were faced with, I think, more significant. I think at one point we were down 6 officers.
And then just on the freezing of the healthcare contributions, I guess I didn't understand, did you mean at the percent that they are paying in? So though that we're seeing a 10.3% increase in the rates, are they also seeing, so it's just that we're freezing the percent of the?
There are 3 tiers for payment, one that's 10%, one that's 12%, one that's 15%. And there would have been, I think, a half a dozen people that would have moved from the 12% tier to the 15% tier. They're still going to pay 12%, but they're going to pay 12% of the higher
Number, okay, that wasn't clear.
And we typically don't budget for shifts within those cost bands. We just look at, it's a static number when we budget for it. So I don't think you'll see an impact on your budget.
In the warrant article, you're saying, or, all right, that's all the questions I had about, well, I guess just, also, so the one-time payments, it said that it would either come from ARPA or other reserves. What would other reserves be, or is it ARPA in this
Right
case?
now, it's in the draft budget, it was ARPA.
Okay, but I see that could change depending on the
Could change.
conversation.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I move that we adopt the proposed union contract for FY 23-24 for AFSCME Local 1348, Public Works. We hear a second.
I'll second that. We're gonna go back and forth tonight. It's just the 3 of us.
Details on this one.
This contract is very similar to the police contract. The only difference is the one-time money goes down to $1,000 for step and $1,500 for non-step eligible employees. But what we did is we increased the stipend by $250 for CDL and there's a few licenses that we, water operator, distribution or collection grade 2, and arborist pesticide licenses, which are all in high demand right now.
I'm sorry, you increased it to 250?
By $250.
By 250.
That's correct.
So
So it
what's-
goes from $250 to $500.
So it's 5, so, okay.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that it's exactly the differential in one-time money between the police and DPW.
Okay, thanks.
And then other than that, the other provisions are pretty much the same. We are doing a referral bonus that you'll see in all the agreements. This is to try to encourage employees who might know another employee and who's doing work, construction work, say, might have a CDL that might come to the town. The DPW workers seem to be encouraged by that.
And that's a payment on the person starting and then a payment after the new employee finishes 6 months of probation.
And the amounts are?
$1,000 and $1,000. So
Once again, should be self-funding savings.
and if that helps us get, I mean, $2,000 is a small price to pay to potentially get an employee who, you know, fits in well and is coming recommended, and that's highly worth it these days.
Okay.
Great. Oh,
Sorry. Any questions on Public Works?
Yes, so, and the critical shortage agreement also applies, and is that going to begin immediately, or does that start on, July 1?
Good point. We do have a critical shortage in this agreement as well. Peter came to us and indicated that he'd had a particularly difficult time getting new hires, and he has some current employees, for one reason or another, who can't perform certain functions on a temporary basis. So he really needed this. We actually have put that in place through an MOU to be able to offer a signing bonus to new employees, as well as offer this if we feel that the current employees are taking on an undue burden.
Okay, and then I guess I did want to point out that because last year we gave employees the 1,000 and 1,500 one-time payment, that this, actually by doing it again, that kind of keeps that whole. Because it's sort of in my mind, I was wondering if they were bigger one-time payments, if we were actually talking about a COLA that was larger than 5%, but we're not, you know, it's, you know, and if there weren't one-time payments, then actually the COLA would be less than 5%. So it's, I think, you know, something that we may want to do the math for people on to explain that it's actually kind of level funding part of their salary.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. I move we adopt the proposed union contract for FY 23-24 with IAFF Local 3288 firefighters.
This
So
contract.
let's get a second. Who's got a second that one?
I'll second it.
Oh, Joanna
I was
Johnson.
just.
All right.
I
All right. Motion's now on the floor.
This
can have the
contract
rest.
differs a little bit from the other two, in large part because we had discovered, and I know the board had been engaged in part of this conversation. We discovered that an anomaly that occurred during the last pay and classification study, where firefighters were actually denied 2 steps that they would have otherwise gotten had they been treated like the rest of the employees in the town. It was an oversight, I think it was a mistake, but it was one that had created a great amount of concern amongst the firefighters. So this contract, rather than providing significant one-time payments, actually is giving the employees those 2 steps that they lost through this unfair adjustment that occurred prior, in the prior wage and classification study. There is a very small amount of one-time money. It's only $150. But other than that, they get the 5% plus the 2 steps that were that they were denied. There is no retroactivity regarding these 2 steps, so there's no payment going back. They're just being restored effective July 1 of 23.
Which is also, I don't know if we mentioned, that's when the one-time payments are all paid at the beginning of the fiscal year as well. For everybody.
Again, it was becoming an issue in the fire department, a very significant issue of fairness, and I really applaud the efforts that went forth to try to find the money to do this. I know that it's had a significant impact on morale, and the fire chief has been very appreciative of the efforts that went into finding the money to fix this problem that no other employee in the town had that experience.
Any other details we should know about on that contract?
It's just the same provisions as the other agreements, including the referral bonuses, and there is a comp time provision in this agreement that has existed in other agreements. I don't think it's gonna have any budget impact, but it is something that's different than the other agreements.
Comp time?
It allows it, rather than taking payment for overtime, they can take the time off. It really doesn't have an impact. You're giving them time off, which would be paid at time and a half, and you're covering it with somebody who's gonna get paid time and a half, so it's a wash.
Okay.
The comp time has to be given in the same pay period? Or same
No,
week?
it can be carried, but it can't be carried over into the next year. I think there was language about, can't be carried over, it has to be paid out at the end of the year, if there are any balances, and,
From in a prior life, when I used to get paid, I always understood in New Hampshire, you could not carry comp time forward. So for the fire, is there an exception to that?
there's a public employee exception.
Okay, I'm glad you said that and it's in the records now.
Right, it's only 84 hours too, that's all we're allowed.
A max for the year? Yeah, thank you.
Who gets to make that decision?
When it's used,
If it's used, comp versus payment? Who gets to make, the employee? Okay.
Actually, I'm mistaken on that. It has to be by mutual agreement. So the fire chief has to also agree to allow somebody to use comp time.
Okay.
So that I assume that's so that we don't have a number of people
Out at the same
accumulating
time.
large balances and then having nobody to run the fire department.
Yes, we want firefighters in June.
We need ambulances.
Okay. Are you have any?
So I was wondering if you could clarify then, so would firefighters be getting 2 steps in total or 3 steps in total? The 2 that they are behind and then their annual one, or is it?
They would be getting 2 on July 1, and then on
On
their
their
anniversary
anniversary.
date, they would get the 3rd.
All right, and then I know that, like, if you look at the different contracts, the fire had 12 holidays where they get paid even if they don't work. Everybody gets paid all the holidays, and if you are working, you get paid a second time, or however that works. But then there are other contracts that have incentives for fitness or whatever, and I was wondering whether or not there was any uniformity that was being introduced in this contract.
I know we had discussions about physical fitness, which is something that the police contract has. And the priority was placed on trying to fix this anomaly in the steps. So we did not make any changes with regard to physical fitness at this point.
All right.
Next year.
Yeah, Kari, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we did talk about it, but there was a lot of other things.
Yeah, and it was just that, I mean, that's, there's just a lot of provisions in the different contracts that if you read them all, it's like, oh, well, this group has this and this group has that. And I know that, I mean, you were trying to treat everybody, the same, so I was just wondering how that was coming out.
And you're exactly right. We've had many hours of discussions about this very thing, and like Matt said, the priority from the union standpoint was getting the money into the base salary lines to get us to make sure we're not falling behind here. But one of the things, I mean, the way that we approached the process was, I would say, was very transparent and fair and open with 3 different bargaining units. For example, we kicked off the round of discussions where, we met and I spoke with all 3 of them together to kind of share where we were at and some of the broad strokes of where we were going, which I believe was a new practice from this year. And what we're hoping to do in future years is start to go in the direction of getting things more uniform and standardized. So like one small thing that doesn't apply to the unions, I don't believe there's any union employees this applies to, but doesn't apply to like town hall employees, for example, there are some employees who pay for parking to work here and some who don't. And I can't find a distinction about who does what. And so we're, just going to provide parking for all employees going forward, which only really has an effect on town hall and I believe I think are the only two where some employees do pay for parking. So there's things like that, who gets a cell phone reimbursement, who doesn't. There's just a bunch of inconsistencies there that we're going to try and start to standardize a little bit.
It's a one-year contract, so you'll have the opportunity
Exactly.
next year.
Right. That's right. And right.
Yes.
The only thing else I would add is that the preliminary data we were getting from the wage and salary study that we've started but not completed indicated that the fire department was underwage based on the communities that were surveyed. So to the degree we're doing these two steps, it may seem like an awful lot in 1 year. It's really what we're doing is getting ahead of the salary scale and salary and wage study that we're going to be implementing in the future years by doing this now and able to spread that cost over multiple years rather than dealing with it all in one single.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it passes. We have adopted all.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Lots
well
of
done.
work.
Long,
Good job.
Thank you
Alex
very
and
much.
Matt.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
For being so supportive.
Thanks, Matt. Recommendation to adopt abatements as recommended by the Advisory Board of Assessors. Somebody have them at their fingertips.
Yes.
Can you,
I'll move that we approve the recommendation by the Advisory Board of Assessors to, it turns out there were 2 properties that were appealing their current use penalties, and the Board of Assessors said, sorry, you have to pay your current use penalties. You're going from one land use to, you're taking out a current use. And so the meeting was held on February 3rd. So I would move that we approve what the Board of Assessors chose.
okay,
I'll second.
so we, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the abatements as recommended?
Aye.
Aye, passes. Banner requests. Wow, whole bunch. Hanover Services, Prouty, Good Museum, Upper Valley Business Alliance.
I move that we approve all the managers' approvals of these banners. I don't think we need to read every single one of them,
Got it.
just an opinion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Alex, by the way, we rely on staff to know that this all works.
I do too.
Okay. Glad to hear. Glad to hear. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Banner requests are approved. Planning Board appointment. I need to look at Alex's notes.
Basically, there's a planning board member, Christine McDevitt, is alternate, and
Okay.
there's a position for her to become a full-blown planning board member.
Okay.
And so that is the recommendation by staff to appoint her to planning board
Can
as
you
a
make
full
a motion to
member.
that effect?
I will move that Christine McDevitt be appointed to the planning board as a full member.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
and appreciation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Etna Library donation. A donation of $100 from,
I forget, saw the check.
yeah, let's see if I can find it.
From the Hashagans, John and Huntley Hashagans.
I hear a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
All in favor?
Oh, you gotta second it?
Was
Oh,
there-
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Just as a word on these donations, we get a good number during the year for Etna Library, Howell Library, police, fire, and they're just greatly appreciated by the departments it's not so much the money, it's the gesture and the recognition of a job well done by these various entities that receive these donations.
The
So
money's
they're-
nice too, though.
Huh? The
The
money's
money's
nice.
nice too, Peter.
But
Don't-
the money's
you
nice
just
too,
came off
but
of
I think. I
3
also-
nights of
I also-
budget here.
I also think
Money's
the
nice
sentiment's
too.
a lot nicer.
Yeah, no, I did too.
They're both nice.
Yep.
Okay. Administrative report.
Okay, have a relatively brief one. The budget, of course, has been the main name of the game. Most of my waking and non-waking hours have been spent on that for the last month or so. We do have a bunch of materials posted online at hanovernh.org/budget. So we have updated slides, an Excel spreadsheet. We have all the social service applications up there now. And I feel like I'm forgetting there's something else. We're trying to update those all once per week for the next couple of weeks leading up to March 20th, which is the hopeful approval of that here at the Select Board, with also a date for March 27th if we need that. There will be a public hearing on either, I believe, April 10th or 17th, sort of the pre-town meeting, and then of course town meeting is on May 9th. So anybody who has any interest in learning about the budget can check that out online. And there will also be some updates this week, which will include the links to the videos from CATV Jam, who recorded everything last week, and also some short podcasts that I'm going to start doing, some quick episodes about some different pieces of the budget, specifically geared for folks that may not have spent a lot of time with the budget before. So moving in the right direction there, that is all very exciting. Next is I had a really great meeting with Dartmouth's incoming president-elect, I believe is the correct term, and that's Sian. We met a couple weeks ago and had just a great conversation about all sorts of things, Hanover related, Dartmouth College related. Very excited to get to work with her. We have already a few different initiatives and ideas sort of rolling from that conversation, and in some part, starting from the conversation that we had with the Board of Trustees for the college back in the fall, I believe it was. Just some really exciting touch points between the town and the college that we are working on. So I think we're going to see a lot of exciting stuff there, and just want to welcome her to the community, although she's not here yet. I'm not sure the official start date is not till the
July 1.
Right, July 1 fiscal year. So we've got a little time there, but I know she's been out meeting folks and will continue doing that. Next is hosted a few interesting guests here in Town Hall a couple weeks ago, and that was the Secretaries of State for New Hampshire and for Vermont. And we had a conversation on the Hanover Happenings podcast, which is on there right now if you're interested. And we talked about election, trust, and in election and credibility in New Hampshire and Vermont, the different things each state were doing to try to bring people into the process and help educate, inform, and gain feedback. We talked about civics education, participation, direct democracy, and town halls. It was just a great conversation from two thoughtful secretaries of state who also both spent a long time in the legislature, working on bipartisan legislation. And we kind of talked about, different kind of philosophies, such as if, in a divisive political climate, if you're moving forward legislation that relates to the elections, perhaps that a goal is to pass that with, either unanimous or bipartisan support, so that we don't do, pendulum swinging back and forth, at the state level. And so it's just an interesting conversation. Anybody who's curious about those sorts of topics, check out the conversation. I think it was almost an hour and a half. And then the two of them were off the next weekend to the National Association of Secretaries of State Conference, which I'd love to be on the fly on the wall for. So that's cool, and just appreciate both of them for coming out to Hanover and just sharing all of that kind of experience with us. Next is in April in Burlington, I was selected to do a presentation at the IAFSCME conference, which is sort of the leading national organization for municipal government and adjacent related activities, and I'll be talking a little bit about podcasts and public engagement and sharing some of the strategies that we're trying to use here in Hanover, and also soliciting ideas from other town managers from all over the state and country around ideas that they're trying in their communities to try and engage more and reach different demographic groups, inform people about what's happening, solicit feedback, which is always kind of a tougher one, And so excited to kind of get to bring a little bit of what we're doing here out to that group. We already did an update on Hanover Community Power. On the downtown Hanover meetings, we actually just had another meeting today. And we have our last meeting of this sort of phase in about a month. And that today's meeting and the next one is all about how we sort of sustain some of the momentum and energy from the 8, 10, 12 business owners who've been coming out twice a month to talk about different things. They're also going to be, I've got a copy or two of the, or chapter or two of the draft master plan that was sent to me to solicit some of their feedback as well. So just trying to create the touch points between the downtown group and the Sustainable Master Plan Advisory Committee. But that's been just really wonderful having those business owners out. Obviously they were impacted incredibly difficultly over the last few years. And I think we have some really exciting short, medium, long-term kind of projects on the horizon. A couple other small updates. Let's see. Due to a rule change, anybody who has solar and is currently not being taxed on that, there is a form that needs to be filled out to get that exemption, which at some point there wasn't a form, you were just automatically brought in, but there is a form that needs to be filled out. So if you know somebody who's got solar and is expecting that not to be assessed, make sure they reach out to our assessing department to get
I also
that.
believe that the assessing department has reached out
They have.
to everybody in that category.
We believe so, but the odds are, we just feel like, there's probably a few people we don't know about, so just thought I would mention it here as well. But yeah, they did send a letter out to everybody.
So this was something that a town meeting in 2019? No, 2019,
yeah, I think it was 2019.
We voted to not assess taxes on solar, to encourage renewables. And it passed a town meeting. And so it was just assumed that, we weren't gonna assess it, but it turns out the state says, if you have solar panels, we want to know that they're there,
Right.
and you have to file for an exemption. And so that's what the form, if people have solar and they haven't received a form, they should come to town
Yes.
hall and get it.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just making sure that we have, and I think we had most of the information, but I'm sure there's,
The forms are partly filled out,
right.
coming to you.
Two other quick updates is, we should have mentioned this when Judy was here, but the Sustainable Hanover did have a successful styrofoam recycling event a couple weeks ago, and that was 21 volunteers who came out, and we had 141 households contribute styrofoam to be recycled. Kind of a weird material, not amazing, way better to recycle it than throw it out. It takes a pretty long time to biodegrade. And so thank you to those 21 volunteers for running that event in the 141 households. Last thing is that with funding from the state, we have a very large supply of free COVID tests that are kind of in town hall. I think they're in the Howe. I think they're in a couple different town buildings. If anybody does want one, they can just stop by town hall and stop down into my office. And we've got boxes of them that we can give out to anybody for any reason.
At the Etna library too.
Etna library too, yes. Yep. That's it.
Can I just clarify some dates?
Sure.
Keep up on. So you mentioned March 20th would be hopefully when we would vote on the budget. And if we're not ready by chance, it would be the 27th.
Yep.
When do we vote on the warrant articles?
So that will
be in April.
That should be April 10th or April 17th. I believe it will be April 10th.
All right. So then, and then that gives you enough time for printing and all, obviously. So.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah. So I believe it is the April 10th date. Yes.
We have board meetings on the 10th and the 17th.
Yep.
Okay.
And then that's it for April.
Right.
So yeah, the next month of meetings are kind of weird dates. They're not quite following the normal schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any select board reports?
I have Hanover Bike Walk Committee met this afternoon at 4. I was unable to attend, but I do know that there's going to be a bicycle skills clinic
All right.
on April 30th. Mark your calendars. It's a Sunday from 12 to 1:30 at the race school. And then walk and roll to school day is May 3rd, which is a Wednesday. And that's, 7:15 to 8, where we have walking school buses, but mark your calendars. And then a really important date is tomorrow, school vote at Hanover High School. Reminder that go in the back way by the track, park there and enter the gym, basically on the south side of the school.
I would refer to it as the back.
The back of the high school.
So, for those geographically challenged, just say get to the back.
Go to the back near where the track is and enter that way and be sure to vote. I think the polls are open 7 to 7.
Okay. There's been no call for is there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, though we don't need it.
Don't need it?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Other business?
There isn't any.
Other business is restricted to business brought up by the select board that was not on the agenda. Not public, it's not public.
Even though I've spoken at any time,
If you did, it was a mistake.
it was your mistake, and Bill's mistake, and Apple's, that was mistake, you all.
Public comment is the time, David. Okay,
So, second, you moved?
I
Really?
moved.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
We are adjourned.
Can I use your stuff for a quick second?
Bye, Kari.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Oh, look at that, 8:30.